Thinking about moving to Crofton? In this video, I'm going to share with you my top 10 reasons why I love Crofton and why after living and working here, I find it a great place to call home. First up, Crofton is a beautiful place to live. You know, it's one of those things where there's a ton of mature trees and greenery in and all around. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about this suburb. You know, so here's the deal. A lot of newer places I find are just sort of like too built up where maybe they have some trees or a buffer zone behind, but you know, the whole subdivision usually is just like houses and asphalt, you know, maybe a little bit of grass, and it's just like open and you can just see all the houses. Where what I'm gonna say is there's a lot of Crofton has trees and some buffer zones in between these things, right? You know, it's, if we go back, you know, into the 60s, it was a planned development. You know, previously there was a lot of tobacco farms here, and when a lot of the communities were formed, they left not only like buffer zones in between the different subdivisions, but even inside a lot of like the little areas that have the homes, the different communities there are trees on the corners. There's trees, you know, next to the sidewalk. And you go down, for example, Crofton Parkway, and you can see like this tunnel of trees that you go through. And it's just so pretty. I love all the greenery. It just makes the place feel so much warmer and inviting to me. So I'm a big fan of all the greenery. I love it. You also have Crofton Park there. You know, you have a little pond, you have like the gazebo stuff. So again, plenty of outside beauty. I'm a big fan, highly love it. All right, number two, schools. So listen, here's the deal. I'm gonna say schools is definitely one of the things I love about Crofton, even though I don't have any kids that are going to the Crofton schools, right? Like when I lived there, we didn't have our kids yet. So I didn't actually have anyone that went to the schools, but I still love that they have good schools. Why is that? Well, really two reasons. The first thing is from a resale standpoint. When you have an area that has, you know, highly rated schools, it helps the real estate market. You know, it creates more demand for that area. And it also means it's usually going to be a better resale value because people want to be there, right? Just supply and demand, pretty simple. So I love that they have good schools that are highly ranked because, again, helps the resale. And number two, it's just one of those things where I find, you know, when you have good schools, people are a little bit more proud of that area, and you know, they want to belong, they want to be part of that community. And so look, you know, take that for what it is. That's just something that I have found. So I love the fact that they have some really well ranked, you know, both elementary, middle, and high school. Speaking of the high school, you know, fall of 2020 is when the new Crofton High School was built, and that has been a big buzz thing for the last several years. A lot of people are very excited about it, you know, having the new building, having the new athletic field, all the technology that went into it. It's just been a really big draw to Crofton. And number three, I love the tight-knit feeling of Crofton. You know, it's one of those things where Crofton itself it's fairly tight-knit, right? I mean, it's not that big of an area, and they're fairly self-sufficient. You know, you have several grocery stores, you have several restaurants, you have, you know, your local pub. And the thing is, people all in and around there, they go to the places that are right there because it's super convenient. And with that, you know, you run into people that you know. You have several different groups, from like, you know, your buy nothing group to like your, you know, different moms groups and stuff like that. Like people are in these like different meetups / Facebook type groups where they're loving and living in Crofton. You do have community events there, of course, like the Festival on the Greens or the seasonal farmers market. But even if you don't go to those things, what I'm going to say again is it still has that tight-knit feel. So you get the, you know, the benefits of a fairly big-ish city in terms of lots of amenities, but the smallness and the tightness of a great community. And number four, Crofton is a fantastic community location. It's one of the things that I really loved about living there because, you know, look, as a real estate agent, I had to get to different areas. I have buyers, you know, all in and around the area. And it was nice being in a central location that I could easily get to, you know, several different major roads, right? From 301 to 50 to 450 to 97 to 32. It was right there, nice and super convenient. So if you, for example, have someone in your household that needs to work in DC, no problem. Shoot down 50. You have someone who needs to go to Southern Maryland, like Waldorf. Okay, head down 301. Or maybe if you are lucky enough that you can be in Annapolis, boom, right down the road. Baltimore, okay, again, shoot up 97. You're good, right? So from a community location, it's pretty fantastic. I mean, it's even, you know, you can hop over to Odenton, take the MARC train, and, you know, to DC, for example. Again, super easy. We've also had a ton of clients that work over at Fort Meade and still want to enjoy the Crofton vibes in that community, but they work at Fort Meade. Okay, again, not a bad commute. So again, I love the commuting aspect. I love the easy access. It's just a nice central location. And number 5, food. I love all the food options over in Crofton. It's one of those things where there's a ton of choices and lots of different cuisine types, which makes it really fun, right? So even though I live in Annapolis now, I still go to Crofton all the time to go get some food because there's some pretty fantastic spots over there. So whether you like some of the chain options like Outback or Bonefish Grill or Elevation Burger or Chipotle, you got that. Whether you want something that's maybe a little bit more, local or something. I mean, you have a kebab place, you have some Indian food, you have, plenty of seafood stuff from like the Blue Dolphin, right? I mean, you have so many different little places. They even got a new vegan Cinnabon place. Like, yeah, right? A Cinnabon place and it's vegan may not sound good, but let me tell you, Cinnaholic is absolutely fantastic. So again, just so many wonderful little food options. There's, Fat Boys, there's Mexican places, there's all kinds of stuff, whether it's seafood, whether it's Mexican, whether it's, Indian, whether it's a kebab, whether it's a diner, they have it. So food is definitely one of the things that I absolutely love about living in Crofton. Number 6, I love that there are so many things to do right in the Crofton area. So if you're into golf, for example, well, you have 2 country clubs. You have the Crofton Country Club as well as the Walden Country Club. The one has 18 holes, has a clubhouse, has a swimming pool, has a tennis court. Then you have the other, which has like a nice driving range and a little putting spot. So again, plenty of options if you like golf. Now, if you're like, that's not my speed, I want something a little bit more fast paced, well, then go check out the go-kart racing that's just up the street, right? So you got kart racing. If you, you just want to sit back and watch a movie, cool, no problem. There's a movie theater right there in Wall Chapel. Or maybe you like Mission Escape. There's a Mission Escape there also in Wall Chapel. If you want to just go hang out outside, cool, you have Crofton Park. Or how about like near Habitat, they have that little pond, that little walking path around. Again, plenty of stuff to do. Just go enjoy either the outside or maybe you want to go eat some crabs. Go over to Fat Boys and go get some crabs. So again, there are plenty of options when it comes to things to do in Crofton. And number 7, I love that Crofton has a strong economy. Now look, this is both from a local and also more of a macro standpoint. So first, at a macro standpoint, just to touch on it really quickly, which is we're right outside of DC and Baltimore. So as we talked about with so many different job opportunities nearby, we're fairly well insulated because you don't have just like one industry that if one industry goes down or slows down, that we're totally crushed, right? Because we have multiple different things that are going in and around the whole area. So from a macro standpoint, between so many different jobs and so much like infrastructure to support the government basically in DC and the military, this whole area is pretty well insulated, which does help from a more macro standpoint. Now, okay, you might be thinking, okay, well, great, that's true if I'm in Bowie or Annapolis or Severna Park or something. I'd say, yeah, totally true, right? So why is it special with Crofton? Well, one of the things to think about is we already talked about it's high demand, right? People want to be here for the schools. They want to be here because of all the amenities, all the food, all the things to do. So having that high demand is going to keep the prices sort of high, right? Like people aren't just going to sell for really cheap because there's high demand. Supply and demand rules it all. So having both people who want to live here, people who are, having decent jobs, decent household income, all that is sort of, that creates that sort of nice self-sufficient and strong market. And I dig that. And again, as a real estate agent, if I have a client buying in an area, I want to feel like they're buying something that's a good investment, not just a good fit for right now, but something that's going to be more long-term is a good play for them. And I feel pretty confident that Crofton is in high demand and isn't going down anytime soon. And number 8, I love all the shopping and amenities right here in and around Crofton. One of the biggest sort of most popular spots, of course, is Wall Chapel Town Center, which has roughly, 60 or plus different businesses right there. You have Wegmans as an anchor store, you have the movie theater, you have some fantastic restaurants in there, you have Dick's Sporting Goods, again, you have all kinds of specialty stuff to restaurants to, your grocery type stuff, right? Then right next to it, you have Village of Wall Chapel, which is like, was built a little bit before, a little bit older, but you still have plenty of restaurants, again, like Chipotle, you have Safeway, you have other specialty stores from like a bike shop to, all kinds of little things in there. So that's, again, lots of action there. You have Princess Parkway, you have across the street over there, right where like the Ace Hardware is. That includes like a Benjamin Moore inside of Ace, which is great if you got to do some painting. There's just so much stuff up and down the main road there that you don't have to go very far. And number 9, I love Crofton being a home base for traveling and for vacations. So look, here's the deal. The first big obvious one is that BWI is only about 15 miles up the road. So if you want to go traveling, whether it's, I don't know, to the Caribbean or to Europe or whatever, you want to get out, okay, all good. BWI is an international airport and is right there. It's also a hub for Southwest. So if you like Southwest, well, they have a ton of direct flight options right there, nice and nearby. So I love that aspect. I love that convenience. If maybe you want to do something that's a little bit more local, well, maybe you want to head to the Eastern Shore, or you want to go a little bit further and go to Ocean City, or maybe go to Assateague Island and have all the little wild ponies all in and around you. Well, if you just go down 50, that's a few hour drive, right? I mean, you could go do that for the day. You could do it for the weekend. Super convenient. Or maybe you want to go into DC and, do the museums and, check out some of the history there. Well, again, DC's just up the road going 50, the opposite direction, right? So super convenient, just like we talked about the convenience for commuting and for work. Well, it also is super convenient for going to go do those day or weekend trips or something a little bit longer. So again, Crofton just makes a really wonderful home base. And finally, number 10, I love that Crofton has a nice variety of housing options. One of my best friends right now is looking for a home in the Crofton area. He's relocating for military. He's PCSing to the area. And, he doesn't want a big yard and a lot of maintenance stuff, right? So we're looking at some of the newer style townhouses that basically the yard's taken up by the garage in the back and so on and so forth. And they're really pretty sweet. In fact, they're bigger than some of the single family homes that I've also seen in and around here. Or maybe you prefer some of the single family homes, no problem. You have the Levitt homes from the 60s and 70s that, your traditional sort of split foyer and split level, or maybe a rancher, and a couple different colonial styles. Or if, you want something that's a little bit newer, no problem. There's, through the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, there's some really sweet colonials all in and around the area. You want some of that new hotness? Okay, you can go over to Willow Grove and get some of the bigger McMansion style stuff, right? So you really have the full gamut. I mean, there's also crazy contemporary little condos over in Habitat, or there's also a plethora of just standard townhouses around. I mean, there really is something for everybody. Now, I'm gonna say none of it's necessarily very cheap. Again, Crofton is, very sought after, high demand. So relatively speaking, I'm gonna say Crofton's fairly expensive as far as the housing stock, the choices here. It's not going into New York City or anything, but it's definitely not on the more affordable area because again, good schools, at least highly rated, to, lots of amenities. It's pretty sought after. So those prices are gonna stay kind of high. But I love that there's a ton of different types of options. Whether or not something is available for you at this moment, that just depends on the current market. As you can see, I absolutely love Crofton. For me, the top 2 things probably is giving me the beauty, the greenery, tied with having all those amenities. I have to admit, I am a sucker for having DoorDash be able to deliver all types of food to me, as well as be able to just run up, go catch a movie, do something on the spur of the moment because it's right there. Now, I'm curious what you think, what you are attracted to. Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to see you in the next video. And meanwhile, if you have any questions at all or you want some help moving here, just shoot us a DM. We'll be happy to help.